Have you ever heard whispers in the dark, secrets that seem to call your name from the shadows? Tonight, we delve into a tale that will make you question the very fabric of reality. Welcome back to EchoDeth FM, where the shadows speak and the unknown awaits. Tonight, we venture deep into the eerie tale of reflections of fear. Our story follows three friends on what seems like an innocent afternoon by Mirror Lake, but there's something lurking just beneath the surface. A place where reflections don't just mirror the world, they twist it. As the day wears on, they'll discover that the real danger lies not in what they see, but in what sees them. Are you ready to face the truth beyond the static? Stay tuned, if you dare. The day was unnaturally perfect, a brightness that felt wrong, as though the world was putting on a facade. The sky was a vibrant, artificial blue, the kind you only see in postcard images. Even the air felt too still, too warm, lacking the gentle breezes that usually accompany such days. The sun hung heavy, casting everything in an almost dreamlike glow. But there was an unsettling wrongness beneath the surface of this tranquility. Three friends, Lisa, Marcus, and Emily, made their way down the winding trail that led to Mirror Lake, their footsteps crunching softly on the dry leaves beneath their feet. The lake's name alone carried a weight to it, a reputation that none of them wanted to discuss. Mirror Lake was a name whispered in hushed tones, not because of its beauty, but for its strange, unnerving calm. "The perfect day for a hike," Marcus had said, his voice deliberately light-hearted, but his eyes kept drifting toward the still water ahead. A nervous chuckle followed, though the rest of them weren't so convinced. As they walked, the trio couldn't shake the growing sense of dread that seemed to cling to the air. Marcus kept glancing at the lake, his mind turning back to the old stories he'd heard as a child. "Don't look too long at the water," his grandmother had warned him once, her voice thin and cracking with age. He hadn't believed her then, but now, as the lake came into view, he couldn't help but remember her tone, how serious she had sounded. Emily, on the other hand, wasn't focusing on any old stories, but she felt an oppressive weight on her chest. She didn't know why, but ever since they had stepped onto the trail, she felt watched. Not by an animal, but by the lake itself. The air here was thicker, the silence more profound, like the world was holding its breath, waiting. As they neared the edge of Mirror Lake, the group's laughter faded, leaving only the sound of their footsteps and the occasional creak of a branch overhead. But even the forest seemed quieter than it should have been. No birds, no insects. Just the whisper of the wind, which felt like it was deliberately avoiding the water. Mirror Lake stretched out before them, its surface like a pane of glass, immaculately still despite the faint breeze that rustled the leaves around them. No ripples, no waves. Even on stormy days, they had heard, the lake never stirred. Today was no different. Something was wrong with the silence here, as if the water was waiting for them to notice it. As they set their bags down at the edge of the lake, Marcus bent down to inspect the water. His reflection stared back at him, perfectly still, but something about it bothered him. It wasn't the expression. It was the eyes. They seemed sharper somehow, more alert than his own. He blinked, and the reflection blinked with him, but not quite in sync. He took a step back, heart racing, but quickly laughed it off. Lisa stood beside him, her eyes also fixed on the lake's surface. She didn't say anything, but something was gnawing at the back of her mind. The reflection seemed off. She could feel her pulse quickening in her throat. Could reflections look too real? The group made their way around the shore, but couldn't help but feel they were being watched. Not from behind, but from below. Every time they glanced at the water, it was there. Those strange reflections mimicking their every move. But it wasn't until Emily gasped that they realized what was truly happening. "Did you see that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Marcus and Lisa followed her gaze back to the water, but there was nothing. just their reflections. "I swear, it smiled at me," Emily muttered, her voice low, shaken. "Reflections don't smile," Marcus said, trying to sound logical, but he couldn't ignore the pit growing in his stomach. Suddenly, the water began to ripple despite the windless air, and from the glassy surface, their reflections began to rise, slowly, deliberately. Doppelgangers. Perfect copies of themselves, but with subtle, chilling differences, emerged, dripping from the lake. The air grew colder as they stepped forward, eyes locked onto their originals with a sense of hunger. The group stumbled back, hearts pounding in their chests. The reflections were no longer reflections. They were real, tangible, and they were closing in. "Run!" Lisa screamed, but no matter how fast they moved, the doppelgangers matched their pace, step for step, mimicking their movements with eerie precision. The doppelgangers lunged, their cold, wet hands grabbing at Lisa's arms, pulling her toward the water's edge. The struggle was chaotic, the doppelgangers mimicking their movements perfectly, but there was something more sinister about them now. The fight felt futile, like the water itself was pulling them in, draining their strength. Suddenly, everything went dark. When they woke up, they were lying in a quiet clearing, no longer at the water's edge. Marcus, Lisa, and Emily stumbled to their feet, hearts still racing. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the forest, but something felt wrong. As they made their way to the nearby gas station, the world seemed quieter, almost dreamlike. They didn't speak much, each of them trying to shake the eerie events at the lake from their minds. But as they entered the station, the attendant didn't look up. No one did. It was like they weren't there. Lisa approached a mirror in the corner, hoping to splash some water on her face, but as she leaned closer, her reflection didn't appear. Nothing stared back at her, just the empty mirror. Marcus noticed it too. "Guys, I don't think we're..." He trailed off, his voice shaky as the realization hit, grabbing a newspaper from the rack. The headline reads, "3 bodies found in Mirror Lake. Lisa Moore, Marcus Miller, Emily Adams." His face pales as he stares at the paper, unable to comprehend what he's seeing. They were gone, echoes of the people they once were. As our tale draws to a close, it leaves us with a lingering question. How well do we really know ourselves? Marcus, Lisa, and Emily thought they knew the answer, that they were alive and in control. But as we saw, reality is far more fragile than we think. What if the reflection we see in the mirror isn't truly ours? What if the things we fear aren't lurking in the shadows but staring back at us when we dare to look closer? Mirror Lake was a place where the lines between reality and reflection blurred, where even the brightest day couldn't chase away the darkness within. But the truth is, darkness exists everywhere, waiting in the calmest places, even in the familiar reflections of our lives. In the end, the question we must ask ourselves is this: in the reflections of fear, can we ever be sure who's staring back? Thanks for tuning in to another chilling episode of EchoDeth FM. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming tales of terror. Next time, we'll dive even deeper into the strange and unexplained. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Let me know your thoughts about today's twist in the comments below. And if you've got your own spooky stories to share, drop them in the comments. I might just feature one in a future episode. Give this video a thumbs up if it sent shivers down your spine, and share it with friends who love a good scare. Until next time, remember, sometimes the scariest stories are those that echo from the darkness. Stay safe and keep listening, because here we go beyond the static.